Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening. 60 minutes of football fun and banter with Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV. Are you ready? Let's get ready to rumble.
Strap yourself in, because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow and join in now.
This is your host, Chris.
No! God, please, no! No!
I know, I'm sorry, but he's cheap and available.
How rude.
Right, Chris.
Good evening. How the devil are we? Look at that. Still not getting used to things and how they should work in the new year. There I am. Hello, everybody. Cheap and available. Most certainly am. Just in case you're listening, Brendan, I've still got a pair of football boots. Although you probably have to keep me sort of going with pies for the whole game. But hey, welcome along. It is FA Cup third round weekend. And of course, the big question on every Leicester City fan's lips, of course it is Brendan still there? Unfortunately, he is at the moment. But the other question on all Leicester City fans' lips is, we've not seen Craig this year yet. Bring back Craig. Where is Craig? Well, I can tell you, ladies, here he is. Good evening, Craig. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm not sure that was the question on everyone's lips, though, Chris, but I'll take it.
I was wondering which one you're going to refer to then. We've got Gillingham in the FA Cup this weekend. They are currently sat 92nd out of 92 teams in the football pyramid in the main four leagues.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really tough game. I don't know if we can get a win here. Do you?
Well, I think, I know your tongue is slightly in your cheek there, Chris, but
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, one would hope so that we can eke out a win.
Well, I don't know. We've got to think what players we've got available. So when we do the team later, that could be interesting because half of them are on a sick note still. I mean, I just cannot decide. I have actually had a gate put into the fence because I'm changing sides that often at the moment regarding Brendan. I mean, I keep thinking, yeah, he's right. And I know after the new year, you actually wrote a piece which I put up on the Newcastle show, and you said you're not going to have a knee-jerk reaction to one game.
No.
And yet, here we are 3 games in, 3 poor performances. Well, two poor performances, I've got to say. One pretty decent one, in fairness, and we were lucky against Liverpool. Is it time to press the panic button before we get too far into the January transfer window?
No, I didn't think the Fulham performance was particularly poor, to be honest. Another day we'd have run out winners there. I think they had one chance, one at the end when we were chasing the game. They had a breakaway. Apart from that, I can't remember Danny Ward having anything to do, even though they're in the top 8 of the table and had won their last 2. On another day, we've had 3 clear chances. Perez should have scored. Barnes should have scored. Vardy could have scored. an inch lower and Tielemans hits another, another super goal of the season contender. Fingertips of Leno save one from Perez. So another day you're having 4 or 5 goals. It's just.
But when is that other day going to?
Yeah, I know, but you're talking about a performance. You're talking about performances, and you say if you're having bad performances and not creating chances, yeah. I'm not saying it was perfect, and Brendan still frustrates me to hell, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The way he's going, he will hang himself on Harvey Barnes' shirt, because that's the biggest issue for me. But yeah, we could have easily won that game. We could have come away with 2 points. We could have come away with 4 points. We played pretty well at Liverpool, to be honest, and we've got 2 freak own goals that have taken it against us. So, I think it's the inconsistency is a problem. I thought, indeed, he had a really good game against Liverpool for an hour, and he was absolutely shocking the other night. That's the problem, I think. It's the consistency. It's just not there at the moment. And it's like, we've just started the season again, isn't it?
God, yes, it is. It is.
We're repeating it. As I say, with the first one, the Newcastle, I think if that had come the week after our away win at West Ham, I don't think the reaction would have been as bad. I think it was the fact that, everybody had been waiting for a month for football again, and we come back and it was such a disappointment, albeit against a very good Newcastle side who have gone to Newcastle and have gone to Arsenal away, and who were flying high, and have come away with a decent result as well. So, long answer to your short question: is it time to press the panic button? Not yet. Not yet. For me.
When will it be? Because if we leave it until the window closes, so which basically is the end of the month, then whoever comes in has got the same set of players to play with. And you would hope for a new manager bounce. I think Southampton are still waiting for theirs. But, as I look at the table at the moment, we are on 17 points. Everton are on 15, and they're third from bottom. Mm-hmm. We are 5 points above position number 12, which is Palace. So we're 5 points off 12th. We're 2 points off 18th. And I very much think it reminds me when I was in London with my daughter, and I did laugh every time I went into a tube station and saw a thing that said, mind the gap. Because that gap between Leicester and whether it be Palace or Villa, whoever, is getting bigger. And it was 3 points before these games. Now it's 5. We win. We're only where we are because the teams underneath us haven't been good enough to get any wins. And that's not good enough to stay in the Premier League.
It's not, but the same argument was made for us winning the league, wasn't it? It was the teams below us that weren't good enough to catch us, and we didn't like it when people said that. But now we're saying we're only there because the teams below us are crap again. We know that we've not hit anywhere near the heights that we should have. With the squad that we've got, we were starting to come good, and then the World Cup got in the way, which was a bit pointless for most of Leicester's players anyway.
Yeah.
But I know it's difficult because I think either way is a gamble. If a new manager comes in now, unless he's been already having conversations, he's not bringing in any of his own players that he wants in the 4 weeks that we have of the window. It's too short notice to say these are the ones I want. It will be the ones that have already been identified by the people behind the scenes together with the manager. Negotiations, I would imagine, are well underway for anybody that we want to bring in. And then you've got the gamble of sticking with him. I can imagine that a poor result away at Forest is going to really pile the pressure on, that's for sure, because they'll go above us. It's a gamble either way. And as it stands now, I'm probably on the side of gambling that he'll turn it round again, like he did towards the end of the first half of the season. And again, I can't see any people who you would think to come in. I mean, it's not exactly worked for Southampton, has it?
No, it hasn't.
So So that's the thing, is it? You know, you talk about new manager bounces, but there's a few teams who are not getting it.
Indeed,
so it's a tough one.
Indeed. Two names, and one of these Ant keeps throwing at me, which is Sean Dyche. The other one is Pochettino, still lurking and still living down in London.
Yeah, I don't think Pochettino is going to come, to be honest. It'd be nice, you know, if it depends, you know, if he likes a project with an outside chance of being in the Championship. I mean, we talk about Sean Dyche, and we you know, the same people who mention Sean Dyche now would have laughed 2 years ago at Sean Dyche being in charge. So I'm not one of those who's going to flick round now and just say, will he be the man to keep us up? Okay, keep us up and maybe get us in this exciting relegation battle year in, year out, if that's what you want. You know, who knows? So for me, if I had to gamble, I'll gamble on Brendan turning it round.
And I want to ask you, because this is confusing me. I mean, you go to the home games, I don't. So you see the team. I only see what they show on the telly, which is not sort of running off the ball or anything like that. Oh, excuse me. Everybody at the moment is, and you mentioned it before, is having a downer on Harvey Barnes. Now, we've got 3 strikers at the club. Tony Vardy has scored 1 goal in the league. Kelechi, I think, has got 1. And I don't know if Daka's got any at all in the league, to be honest with you. Our top scorer and top assists is James Maddison, who is out, obviously, at the moment. And our second top scorer with 6 goals is Harvey Barnes. Now, if he wasn't playing Harvey Barnes, we didn't have those 6 goals, we'd probably be in a bigger pile of poo than we currently are.
Okay, but by the same arguments then, Brendan won numerous matches a month and a half ago at the same time that Harvey Barnes was scoring goals. So if you're saying that we should stick with Harvey Barnes, surely we should stick with the manager.
No, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, I think the problem is
when you make it. You know?
Yeah, the problem is that I don't know if you can say managers come in and out of form. I don't know. But players definitely do. And particularly Harvey's a confidence player. For me, he would be better taking him out the firing line and giving him the 20 minutes to come on and show what he can do and make an impact and maybe build his confidence up that way. Because what's happening at the moment is if things are not going well for him in the first 15, 20 minutes, you might as well take him off at that point because they rarely get any better. You know, that finish, you know, it was a decent save, but I think a confident Harvey Barnes would have finished that one against Fulham. There wasn't a lot of conviction in his finish. He left a lot of his passes short because he's not confident in snapping them into people. So for me, it would kill 2 birds in 1 stone. One, Harvey isn't worth his place on the pitch at the moment in what he's delivering. But you take him out and you have the option of playing 2 up front, which I think the majority of fans would prefer.
Oh, please. Yes. If only. Yeah. Talking about the 2 up front, I mean, Jamie Vardy passed his sell-by date. And the problem we've got is Daka doesn't look as badly as injury as we thought it might be. But Kelechi can't play on his own. He is not a 1 up front striker. We know that. And we know what he can do with 2 up front. But having the manager that we've got, and as stubborn as he is, I know he scored a lot of goals and he probably got us into Europe, but then I'm going to go back to 1 up front. Vardy's not producing it. Daka's not producing it. There's a lot of talk about who we're going to get, if anybody, in the transfer window. Surely we've got to be looking for another striker as well.
I can't see you having Kelechi, Daka and Vardy playing 1 up front and having those 3 sitting on the bench. I can't see there's any way that if he's got a limited budget, he's going to spend it on a striker.
No,
I think he's got the answers already in his squad. He's just too stubborn, or whatever you want to call it, to be using them correctly. And I that's the thing that I will always hold against Brendan. I don't understand it. You know, they say the definition of madness is to keep repeating the same experiment and expecting a different answer.
Yes.
So I don't get that at all. For me, Kelechi's can be hot and cold. His first touch or his second touch is very often a tackle. But he's very positive. He's always wanting to get a shot off. I've seen the last couple of games, I've noticed more from Jamie. He looks like he's got a bit more of his appetite back. I know he didn't get many chances, but he looked a little bit more like the old Jamie, whether he's realising that he needs to sort of get going again. Otherwise, his career will just dwindle out.
Well, he had one great chance, and I think the old Jamie would have buried that. And the current Jamie did a daisy cutter across the floor straight at the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think you look at it, you get certain ankles. I think he was probably trying to go between his legs and smash it through there. But again, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Confidence is massive for any footballer, and we saw it. It's not a secret that once we'd won one game, we won 2, 3, 4, and had really good performances on the bounce. It's the same players. They're just playing with more confidence, and now they've got to rebuild that.
Somebody was saying, and Ant said it as well, we're not winning games, though, against the top half teams.
Yeah.
No,
we're not.
We want to be beaten, then we want to beat every team we play, obviously, but it is probably more important that we are at least winning the games against those that are down and around us.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. It's nice to get anything from teams above, but you're right. It's the teams in and around us that you've got to be at least not losing to. Fulham was disappointing because, the game was there to be won. And as I say, on another day,
Craig has frozen, which he did say he might. So I'm not sure whether we're going to get him back or not. Because I did just want to talk to him. One more question about Brendan before we moved on. It does look like we have lost him, though. Yep, either that or he's doing an excellent job of playing the game of statues. Now let's just bring him out, and then we'll just see. I can see if he moves again, and we'll bring him back in. I'm going to have a look at just before while we wait for him to see if he can get back in or not. Just have a look at the he has gone out, so he's going to try and come back in. Patson Daka is the closest to returning of Leicester's nine injured players. What are we doing to them? With the Zambian striker potentially available for this weekend's FA Cup trip, and he's back from outer space. He turned around and he took that look up off his face. Good evening. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, I think Harvey Barnes got at my internet connection.
He sat outside, he's listening and he's cutting those wires. The one thing before we move on from Brendan, and I can't remember who wrote this. I think it was possibly Jordan Blackwell in the Mercury, is that Brendan does not have a small squad. Let's be honest with you. Every team's got the same size squad that they can pick from, the 25, 26, whatever it is. He said what he has got is a small number of players that he actually trusts. And he's gone again. Hello. No, I think he has gone again. It has gone again. But I did think that was very interesting. A point is that, he has got alternatives quite often, but he doesn't want to use them. How can Soyuncu be good enough for one of the meanest defences in Europe and a club that is consistently a Champions League quarter-finalist, and yet he's not good enough for a bottom half of the table Premiership team? But there we go, Soyuncu looks like he's being hounded out. We'll see if Craig can make it back in or not. I was going to say Patson Daka is the closest to returning of Leicester City's 9 injured players, with the Zambian striker potentially available for this weekend's FA Cup tie at Gillingham. Daka limped off during last week's defeat to Liverpool. Dennis Pratt, who suffered a blow to his side in the loss to Newcastle, is the only other of the 9 that may make the cut. I just don't know what we are doing. I know when Fofana, and I hate to talk about him, but when he came to Leicester, he was surprised at the intensity of the training. Is that what it is? I just don't know. Kieran Dewsbury Hall and Boubakary Samare is still waiting to. Brendan Rodgers is still waiting to hear about those. We know Johnny Evans, Ricardo Pereira, Ryan Bertrand, and James Justin are all long-term absentees. And even on a smaller number that are healthy. Indeed, Nate, indeed. Like I say, he is doing something at training that is buggering the players up. Probably the same thing that's happening to Craig's internet. But we'll try again. Somebody splashed water on him, and it's after 9 o'clock. And
I've gone hardwired now, so we should be all right.
Brilliant. Just to first of all go back to the point that I said, and I did think it was a very good point that was made. Say Brendan Rodgers doesn't have a small squad, but he has a small group of players that he trusts. Yeah,
it's true. It seems that way, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah.
The other night I thought he could have changed it, and he's this thing about waiting to 70 minutes. I don't know what it is. Whether there's things in people's contracts, I'm not sure. That he's siphoning something off. That he's taking 10% of their bonus, which they only get if they play 70 minutes. But he had a couple of younger kids on there who I thought he could have put on, to be honest. And given some fresh legs. And who could have really, give them 20 minutes, give them half an hour with a view to them playing at the weekend.
Yes.
Against Gillingham. I thought, it was interesting that he decided at that point, it was quite early on, that he would go to Mark Albrighton rather than any of the others. And to be fair to Mark, he played pretty well, to be honest. He put in a lot of decent balls.
To be honest with you, I thought, wow, I'd forgotten about Mark Albrighton. He seemed to really put us up a gear when he came on.
No, he was good. He was direct. And again, he was putting the ball in the box. Our biggest problem is there's nobody in there.
Yes.
But that's another matter that is a bit annoying.
I was going to say, Daka could be back. Pratt might be back if we haven't sold him in the meantime. But there's got to be something wrong with the training, surely, because all these injuries that keep happening, nobody can be that unlucky for that length of time. And it's been like 2 seasons now. I mean, Fofana, when he first came, was really surprised about the intensity of the training. Surely somebody should be knocking on Brendan's doors and going, wait, what's happening with all these injuries? You got rid of David Rene, now sort of, and I'm not saying that's anything to do with it, but, we just, I've never known, I'm 61 and I've never known a time at this club I've known when we've had bad players, but never known when we've had so many injuries to players.
I think, I don't think we're alone this season as well. I think there's quite a few squads that are getting hit by injuries. And I think that it seems to be one of these trends to train with the same level of intensity as you put into a match. But looking at the first 20 minutes, I think we put more intensity into training than we did in the match. But there's clearly, something, I think, knocks, kicks, this, that, and the other, you can understand. Muscle injuries is something different. That's a conditioning thing. So there's clearly something that's not quite right. And if you've spent 260 million or whatever on a state-of-the-art training ground, then you're going to want a better return on your investment in terms of minutes out on the pitch.
You would hope so, but at least we can put them up at the training ground rather than sending them off to the NHS at the moment. Just running through his press conference today, KDH and Sumari are both of them likely to be available. Daka trained with the medical team and was then out with the group today, so he could be back. Pratt is coming along very well, although apparently the Torino president or chief executive has been in London because they're after obviously Pratt and a West Ham player as well. So we will see how that goes. Madison, it's slow at the moment. I just don't know what's going on there. I wouldn't be surprised, and you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch.
Oh,
of
yes, you are.
imagination. But if he comes back as fit on the 1st of February, then you know you can say it. You heard it here first.
Okay.
Transfers. We're working very hard behind the scenes to get players in. Like you say, I agree. You know, striker's not going to be at the top of his priority. Left back, centre back, and right winger definitely are. Those are the three, I think, positions. I think you might agree with me on this one. Just a stab in the dark, you might agree with me on this one. Johnny Evans. Why are we talking about offering him a new contract? He's out longer than he's in. And that's nothing. That's not his fault. He's just 35 now, 36. When he gets injured, he's going to be out longer. But why are we giving an extended contract to somebody that's, unless it's the pay as you play? Why are we giving him an extended contract?
Yeah, I've got no idea. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, that statement that came out, and it came out from a very good source, I think, saying that we were in contract talks with Amati, Evans, and Soyuncu. Now, whether the Soyuncu one was to try and get a year's extension, so we got we got a fee for him, I don't know. That may have been it. You know, here you go. We'll bump your wages up as long as you sign a year's extension, which means we will sell you, but we'll get a fee for you. That's the only thing I can think of that would have been a case.
I mean, this is a player who is wanted by one of the teams that has got one of the best defensive records in Europe. Constant quarter finalists in the Champions League, and yet he's not good enough for bottom half Premier League team.
Yeah, there's
Until
a
we
lot of
guess
things.
we're suddenly going to say, "Oh, please sign it." We don't have any defenders.
It's one of those. I wish that we were part of an Amazon documentary this season, because I'd love to know what was going on behind the scenes. That's for sure. But going back to Johnny Evans, I don't know unless it's a contract that involves some kind of coaching role. I don't know. You know, a specialist slow the play down coach. I don't know, something like that. That he'd be suited to.
I've been shot down by a few people, although Anthony actually surprisingly agreed with me on this. And it's not going to happen. It is not. This isn't going to happen. But I would take Harry Maguire back at this club at the drop of a hat if Manchester United don't want to keep him.
I was asked the same question by a Man U fan at work the other day, and my answer was definitely, yeah. I mean, he's a left-sided centre half who played very well for us, and he's not turned into a bad player. The problem you get is, we were talking about that. If you're a striker and you're going through a bad patch, you can suddenly go and score 5 goals, and the crowd are with you again, and you're playing with lots of confidence. If you're a centre half, you walk out on the pitch knowing that every move you make is going to be scrutinised, and the fans will get straight on your back. It's very difficult to turn around when you're a defender, I think. And to be honest, I'd take him back. I would imagine wages, as you say, it's not going to happen because from a wages point of view, maybe they'd be happy to get him off the books for the rest of the season and get him back playing near his level, on a loan deal. But
I mean, when he left us, he was a good player.
He wasn't bad at the World Cup, to be fair.
Well, he got a goal, didn't he? He got a goal.
And it's just, I think it's that not everybody can play under the pressure of a big club, Mr. Drinkwater. I think we've seen it.
Boom!
It's not for everyone, is it though? And you see it so often of players who go. And there's an old saying that says everybody reaches the level of their own limitations. So you keep getting promoted until you can't do the job anymore. And we see that with footballers, that they go up and up and up until they can't do it. We've seen enough strikers, for instance, who have scored 30 goals in the Championship, who can never make the step up.
If you're watching Danny Drinkwater, by the way, this is what Craig's just done. shot him down.
Yeah, I mean, and and players have to fit certain systems, and you have to play to certain strengths. And he's not become a bad player.
No. In a defence where pick somebody that was playing well for United.
Worryingly though, I did see that we were linked with Phil Jones today. So
we were we? Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God! Right, I might just turn that gun on myself now. No, is it too late? But yeah, I would have him back, and whether he would, I mean, he was decent enough when he left to sign the contract, so that we got the money for him. It's not been easy for him. Big club, big money wages, expectations, and that. Centre midfield, Uwani, I think it's called, who are you, whatever his full name is, at £27 million. We were looking at him apparently before the World Cup. So we're not going on just off the World Cup. Possibly a Tillemans replacement. 27 million.
You would think so. To be honest, I didn't see enough of him, but I know Scott did, and Scott thought he was very good throughout it. There's always that danger of buying a player on the back of a World Cup or a Champions League season or whatever. I remember Liverpool doing it. I remember Liverpool doing it years ago. Morientes, the striker, had a great season in the Champions League, was virtually scoring every round, and then they bought him on the back of it, and he couldn't hit a barn door. So it's dangerous, but it's encouraging if we were looking at him before that. That we're not just looking at him based on 2 or 3 games. Yeah.
Apparently, the right wing position obviously is one that I think we could rue the time, the day we didn't sign Lookman, but it wasn't to be. Obviously, we're being linked with the guy that he has now knocked out of the team, and going to end up paying more for him than we would have paid for Lookman. But again, Boga, however you want to pronounce it, we were looking at him before. Before Lookman anyway. But apparently now, I don't know if you've seen that film Django Unchained or whatever it's called. No, I don't know.
Unchained,
don't know if this is the guy that we're signing, but Dango Quattara, £80 million for the winger taking France by storm, shouts out Leicestershire Live.
How much?
18 million.
18?
Yeah.
1-8?
1-8.
Okay. I mean, there might have been something in it until you said Leicestershire Live.
Well, I'm avoiding now news, but apparently 5 goals and 5 assists for Llorente this season, which obviously is the French Leyton Orient. But 20 years old. I don't know enough of him. I don't know if you know anything about him at all.
No, it depends. I mean, it looks like, again, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it looks like we're reverting to that buying potential, like we did with Fofana and other players. The other one I've seen linked is the left back from Copenhagen.
That was going to be my next question, because he looks like 5 to 8 million. He looks
and again, a 20-year-old. So it looks, who are not necessarily going to come in and have a big impact. Some do. Fofana did. So we have had a few players who have done it. And maybe players who play on the edges of the team. It may sound stupid, but players who play on the edges of the team, like wingers and fullbacks, can have more of an impact than people who go through the middle of the pitch. So whether it's strikers or midfielders, because that seems to take longer to settle in. We've seen it with Samari, who I'm still not convinced about will ever be a good enough player for me. I don't think he has enough pitch coverage. I think you've got to be a bit more all energy. You can't afford. I mean, Tillemans is not an athlete, so you can't afford to have 2 of those for me.
Is Daka? I mean, would you not Daka? Sorry, Ndidi. Would you have Ndidi over Samari at the moment?
That's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I'd put Mendy in there. Mendy for me does the job. Without being spectacular, he gets the ball, he wins the ball, he uses it wisely, he keeps it. So I'd be playing Mendy over both of those.
Right. Well, we will see. Obviously, we've only got 26 days to go Newcastle fans getting excited about Tielemans and Maddison, and Arsenal still trying to get excited. I was in Miss Molina's chat earlier, and it was like, "Oh, Tielemans is coming to Arsenal." Yeah, no, okay, whatever. If you think so, he's had long enough to make that decision.
And playing instead of who?
Exactly. This is it, isn't it? Yeah. But and Newcastle, the noises coming out of Newcastle is that they might not be making many purchases.
Yeah, I think if they don't want to upset what they've already got.
Exactly.
I think and if they can get, and they'll be disappointed like we were if they end up probably in the Europa League. But that's probably the level that they're at. And then they can have a more sustained summer transfer window of integrating players. So that makes sense for me that they don't go and splash a lot of cash and ruin what they've already done so far.
It happened with who did they buy when Keegan, when there were 6 points clear?
Well, I think you mentioned it before. It was Asprilla, was it?
Asprilla, that was it. Yeah. Yes, yeah. And great player that he was, and he got goals, but it just kind of upset the rhythm that they'd got, But anyway, we have a small matter, like I say, of Gillingham at the weekend. Brendan Rodgers said, with regards to selection, we'll pick a team we believe can win the game. We have to bear in mind that we have a game on Tuesday. We'll look at doing that, assessing the guys, making sure we're not risking them to get any more injuries. Father Christmas was back then. Which is the more important game? Because there are two games that are very close. One potentially should be winnable. The other one, I'm not convinced it will be at all.
The most important game is the one next Saturday for me, the Forest game. And I don't think you can take that out of the equation when you're looking at how you pick your teams for both of these cup games, to be honest. I think he has to have that in the back of his mind. That is it's not a must-win game, but it's a must-not-lose game against Forest. I think from what he's saying there, that's disguised language, isn't it? For I might throw a few youngsters in. When you say we will pick a team that we think can win the game,
yes,
that to me says I'm going to make some changes, but we should be strong enough to still win it.
I mean, when you look at that, and I'm not disrespecting Gillingham here, it took me a while to find them because I didn't realise, to be honest with you, they were where they were. I was looking in League One, then at the top of League Two, but they're down there. They are in desperate, dire chances of dropping out of the Football League altogether. Is it 3 now that go down, or is it still 2 at the moment?
I think it's 2.
2. I know they're talking about 3, aren't they? But they are, in that case, they are 5 points off safety. Okay, they've got a game in hand on like the Hartlepool and the Colchester. But it always is. It's always the same ones around that bottom, isn't it?
I mean that is. I'm quite shocked by that. The number of goals they've scored: 23 games, 7 goals.
Yes,
is ridiculous. I mean, Ayoze Perry's missed more chances than that.
And I have to tell you that Alan Bennett, who does my man of the match for the Fulham game, actually went for Perez as his man. No, he didn't. Sorry. The gentleman that does Brian Langston, who does the match report for me, went for Perez as man of the match against Fulham. So,
to be honest, I think he probably was man of the match and against Newcastle as well. He's played well, but you can see how Leicester fans hold grudges because when you go to the marks that everybody gets on the Leicestershire, Perez is down in the bottom 2, so people just don't like him, and that's it. Yeah. However, I mean, 7 goals in 23 games is shocking, although they're clearly not letting that many in compared with the teams around them. So it sounds like it's going to be one of those classic try and grind out a result against a team who have got nothing to lose.
No, they haven't. They haven't. If anything, and I'm sure Gillingham fans would say a lot of this, that the FA Cup for them probably is too much of a distraction because they want to stay in the league. Because they know they're not going to win the FA Cup, even if they have a good run, they would sooner have 3 points in the next game than beat us. But then again, could we not say the same? We'd sooner have 3 points, or do we hold out hopes that we could have a good cup run?
Well, you never know. It does depend on your draw. I mean, we've not got a bad draw, have we? It'd be nice to be at home, but you're away against the team at the bottom of the football league. So, although I look slightly upwards at the team in 18th position, and that sort of starts me filling with a little bit of dread as well.
Well, they're up and down like the proverbial Bryce Knickers, aren't they? Because they started off badly. Of course, Mike, who comes on the channel as a Newport fan, got a new manager and went up and then sort of came down again. But if we can beat Newport County, we should be able to beat Gillingham. But like you say, it's live on the BBC. Every neutral is going to want Gillingham.
Yeah.
We've got to accept that, we're not the favourites that we used to be. They've not won in 5, I don't think they've got there. But I think they must have some cup games in here because they have won one on this one. But I think that was probably Papa John's, Pizzas, Express, whatever.
Yeah.
But then again, when you look at Leicester...
Yeah.
I'm not sure how up to date these facts are. Actually, no scored, no conceded. I think we can ignore those a little bit. We'll forget that one. They're normally up to date when it's the Premier League. I think it's the fact that we're playing somebody further down. But I mean, I honestly think that if we don't win this, then we've really got to be looking at Brendan and saying, is it time? And because to me, I mean, I definitely, if we don't, if we lose this, and the chances are we're going to possibly lose to Newcastle if we play like we did against them, then we come up against Forest. If we lose that, we are, like I say, I think we're possibly going to be right down in the mire.
Yeah, I think again you've got these 3 games. You start looking at whenever you're in trouble, you look at sort of little 3-game stretches, don't you? And you think you need X number of points or X number of wins, and if you don't get them, then he's going to be under pressure. And I think you're right. Nobody's particularly expecting us to beat Newcastle, but if we even got a draw, I think against Gillingham and then lost to Forest, I think he'd be under pressure again.
I think so. I think it's the fact that it's Forest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really. Terry's family and my family. Are your family Gillingham fans by any chance, Terry? Because if it was, I would hide at the weekend. Just some facts here that hopefully are more up to date. In their previous matches, Gillingham have won 1 game, Dagenham and Redbridge, possibly like their cup, and lost 4 with Wolverhampton Wanderers, Colchester United, Sutton United and Stevenage. I don't know what they would have played Wolverhampton Wanderers in, unless that was sort of the, like you say, the one where we played the kids.
It'd be the Johnston Paint Trophy, probably, where it's the league and the Premier League teams put their reserves in.
Yeah, they didn't get a draw. Gillingham managed to score 4 goals and concede 8. Gillingham scored an average 1 goal per match in the current league season. Ken, I don't think this is up to date, is it? I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to totally ignore this. I think
if you've made an average of no fouls this season, then we're probably in for an easy ride.
Yeah. It says here, Gillingham somehow lacked the ability to keep the ball, have an average possession of 48% in the season. I don't think we're a lot better than that, to be honest with you. I mean, we're going to take a good crowd down there. We always do to away games. How important is it that we score the first goal? And I know that's a bit of a Michael Owen statement, but if they score first, my God, the crowd. I mean, there were boos, wasn't there, the other night?
Yeah, there was. It wasn't as bad as it was against Newcastle, but I think a lot of the ire against Fulham was pointed at the referee and Fulham. And that's there's another thing to have a moan at there than something that needs to be done in football at the moment. But on this particular game, they have to, if they concede, then it's going to be a war of attrition. They're going to sit in and try and protect what they've got, and we're not particularly great at cutting down packed defences. So, I'd be worried if we conceded first, that's for sure.
I will as well. Now then, this is going to be interesting because let us look at who we think might be starting the game.
Well, you'll be pleased to know, Chris, that I've given this absolutely no thought.
No, well, I didn't think you would because it's been a while, and I didn't mention it in advance. But
yeah, thanks for that.
That's okay. I thought we could talk through it because I didn't think we'd have that much to talk about with Gillingham. Bless them. And again, not being disrespectful, but I didn't. I mean, I'll start us off. I mean, I think we are pretty much, quite limited in who we can go for. I'm going to start off and say I would, and I'll let you have the final choice, obviously. But I would go for Iverson in goal.
I'd give Iverson a game in this one, I think.
I mean, again, we've been linked with Dubrovnik. Him as well. I'm thinking of the Yugoslavian holiday resort. Yugoslavian, showing my age there, aren't I? Do you think we need another goalkeeper? I don't think we do.
No, it sounds like a red herring. Although I know Newcastle have brought him back from his loan at Man United. Now, whether that's with a view to selling him, I would imagine so. But I can't see it. Doesn't make any sense to me unless Brendan doesn't have confidence in Danny Ward.
Yes, yeah. Well, he's been picking him constantly. We know what he's capable of because he went those games when he was joint top of the clean sheet league. But again, then it wasn't against the big teams. But I just don't think. I mean, obviously, what everybody was saying, I think, was the fact that they were after Tielemans and Maddison, and that he could be used as a bit of a make weight. But let's not forget. Of course, we have got Smithies. We mustn't forget this guy.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
He would be very remiss of us, and not a little tad unfair. To be honest with you, left back. I mean, is there anybody else other than Thomas?
I think he'll play. I think he'll keep the same back four. To be honest, I don't think he's got many options, unless he played, because he doesn't expect them to have a lot of forward threat. He could potentially switch Castagna and play Albrighton at right back, who may offer a bit more going forward. But I don't think in these games you make too many changes in your back four. To be honest,
no. And the other thing is as well. Wout Faes. Looks. That's what I'm looking for. Lacking in confidence, shall we say, at the moment.
Yeah, he's a weird one because he made a couple of poor decisions against Fulham where he sort of rushed out to try and close people down, but his positioning was bad. And then at other times he looks like he's happy to step out with the ball and start the attack. So I'm not sure about him at the moment, but hopefully he won't have a lot to do.
Well, hopefully not. And I think, that those two own goals. The first one was freakish.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, even if Ward shouted to him, right? I just think, as a defender, if you gave him 100 chances to do that again, he wouldn't do it once.
No. Not at all.
And I think he would. He thought, I can clear this, and I'm going to put it into Rosette, which is what he's been good at doing, And it was just unfortunate, and now, so I presume from that you were going to have Amati at the other centre back.
I think so, yeah. And I'm going to say the only thing is whether he decides that he doesn't need four defenders and he goes with a back three and plays his wing backs higher up the pitch. In which case he might bring in what's his name? The Dane.
Vestergaard.
Vestergaard, yeah. He might bring Vestergaard and play him in between the two because he does like to come out with the ball and start the attacks as well. So he could do that. It wouldn't surprise me if he went to three. But the safest option is just sticking with his standard back four.
Or would you not? Now here's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Terry's just said about Vestergaard. But what about this pairing?
I think I would only play Soyuncu if he's maybe if he's signed his pre-contract with Atletico Madrid, because do you want to risk getting him injured in this game? I don't know. He could play anyone, couldn't he? To be honest, because this is the problem with picking this team. You don't know what his thinking is. But bearing in mind, you're right that he does have the game against Newcastle. He could well switch it up, and we could see Soyuncu and Vestergaard there quite easily, I guess. But the other way round. But we could do.
No, what would you put? Well,
Soyuncu's a left-sided.
He is. You're quite right. I'm getting confused with Amati.
Easily done with them too.
Well, no, I'm not saying anything. I can get myself into trouble. Right, let me just change them round for Mr. Pedantic here. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I'm saying I'm doing that. It's not letting me. There we go. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Should we just leave them? Let's agree that they.
Let's agree that they're the other way around, yeah. And the only reason I'm saying that, in the first game of the League Cup, when we played, was it Stockport?
Yeah.
That was our back two defenders, weren't they? So
you could be right there, Chris. You could be right, mate.
Right back. Do you know what? I'm thinking, why the hell not go for Albrighton?
Yeah. I think you would think that you're going to have more of the ball, so therefore you would want people who could maybe use it a bit more.
I can just say to anybody that's watching that this would not be my choice if we hadn't got Newcastle coming up on the Tuesday. Yeah. Now then, centre midfield, sir. Of the three centre midfielders,
Mendy for me.
I was going to say, and that I'm a convert with Mendy.
Yeah.
I love him as well, so I would certainly why not give him a run out. The only problem with picking this sort of team is that if we lose, he'll probably get crucified.
Yeah.
So on the left of Mendy, should we do the right first? Will that be easier, do you think?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm trying to. I mean, you think that we haven't got a lot of options, have we? To be honest,
no.
I think he might play McAteer.
I was going to say, I was going to say, and I think Told You Bro has also said McAteer as well.
Yeah.
Who unfortunately isn't in the list of players on this system, so I can't pick him up. We've also obviously got Lewis Brunt, Sammy Braybrook. Like I said, let me just try, because again, maybe I've spelled McAteer wrong. No, I haven't. There's a McAtee. If I put McAtee in, oops, that's the wrong one anyway. Let's think. Yeah. This seemed like a good idea at the time. Right, who are we going for on the right?
I mean, I think we've got to start asking whether Chris's position is under threat.
Mine as manager.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean...
I mean, will he risk Tielemans when we've got the likes of Samare and Dewsbury Hall carrying injuries?
This is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that in fairness to Gillingham, they're a League Two side. They're not going to be sort of as careful, shall we say, as the Premier League. They'll be more committed, shall we say?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. Terry said I would just play three at the back. They're not a quick team. Please drop Barnes, Vardy, and one other up front. I mean, I've gone for that formation. Are you happy with that formation, or do you want?
Not particularly. I mean, for me, I would either go for three at the back with the wing backs, or I'd go 4-4-2.
I mean, this was the one that we normally go for. In fairness,
I think particularly in this game, I think You know, I think a
3-5-2.
Yeah, you could do that, couldn't you?
Or should we go?
Go for a 4-4-2. Go on, go old school, Chris.
I'm happy with 4-4-2. And can I just say that if we are going to go 4-4-2, then I would have played.
England will be playing 4-4-2.
Indeed. Quite right as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're keeping the back four as is.
If we're going to go 4-4-2, I would put Castagna in and move Albrighton forward.
Okay, so we're going to risk Castagna there. And we're going to move Mark. I just think after he played so well the other day that Mark Albrighton deserves a chance.
And if you've got two up front, you know, he's probably the most consistent at putting balls in the box. So,
yes, I
think he deserves that.
The other centre midfield next to Mendy then?
I would probably I might go with Perez over Tielemans and just try and protect Tielemans, because I think if Tielemans got injured with Samari, Dewsbury Hall, Tielemans, Maddison all injured, we'd be in trouble.
We would. And but again, he might get an injury that sort of lasts until the 1st of February again.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Having said that, we wouldn't be. I wouldn't be that good, because that would make us worse off. Because you can still talk to people. But yeah, I agree. I mean, let's try Perez in there, like you say. You know, if he can't turn up against the 92nd team, then something is wrong.
He's played well in that number 10 role against Fulham and against Newcastle. I thought he played very well, to be fair.
Do you think, and I know you try not to very often, but do you think that we said about, about some of these players, that we look at Perez and think he's not scored because we think of him as a striker, but he isn't a striker, is he really?
No. I think he'd be very good with two, in front of him as well. And I think that's the thing. That Tielemans looked a much better player when he had more people in front of him and more options in the last sort of 20, 25 minutes of that game against Fulham, where he sort of put more players forward. Tielemans was running that game and he had a lot of options and players running off the ball. Trouble is, you can be as creative as you want. When you've got one player in front of you, and somebody who's just, in Harvey Barnes, who might as well be in the Wizard of Oz looking for a brain. Then it's difficult for any midfielder, because they get the ball, they look up, there's bugger all going on in front of them. So I think you'll get more out of Perez or whoever plays in midfield if there's two in front of them.
Yeah. Are we sticking with Braybrook?
McAteer, I think we'll stick with on the left.
McAteer, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to try one other way of trying to find him. Casey, and I'll probably bring up Casey Kellano in my look. Definitely no. He brought up Casey Palmer, who is completely the wrong person, that we can't even use him as an example.
Casey Jones? Was he there?
I used to love that as a kid.
Showing my age now.
Yes, yeah. Now, up front, one of them has got to be Kelechi, hasn't it?
Yeah, so right-hand side, Kelechi.
Yeah. As always, it's the one that I can't spell. Kelechi. Somebody said there, Alves might have got to run out if he hadn't had that.
He might well have done. I mean, what a shocking tackle that was. Well, it's not even a tackle, was it? It was an assault.
It was.
And I don't know if anybody's seen. I assume most people will have seen the challenge, shall we call it? But if anybody hasn't seen the extended highlights of that half, because he only played the first half, I think there's about 2.5 minutes of the highlights of Alves in that game. He does lose the ball occasionally, but it's like watching Messi. It was phenomenal. No wonder they started trying to just kick him off the pitch because he was phenomenal. It's worth digging that little YouTube footage out.
They couldn't handle him, and that's why they
not at all. He was just taking the proverbial.
Yeah, exactly. Andrea says yes, he has watched it. I'm guessing that's what he's saying. Yes.
Yeah.
To. Now, again, we're struggling up front, aren't we? Because, I mean, it's got to be Vardy, hasn't it?
No, I think if Daka's fit, he'll play Daka.
Are we taking it that he's going to be fit then and put him in?
I think if he said he's been out on the pitch and he's out training, I think, yeah, I think you put him in for this one and you save Vardy for the Newcastle game.
Well, there we go. That we know that it's going to be nothing like that, is it?
No,
we know that. But he's got to rest players, surely, with the way the injuries are happening. He's got to rest players for.
I think his hand's being forced a little bit, and it's again, I don't feel sorry for managers on multi-million-pound contracts, but with the number of players he does have at his disposal and 2 bigger games coming up, it's a tricky one because you know that if you lose this game, you're going to be absolutely roasted for it. Yet you can't afford to really put out your strongest team.
No, you can't. But like you say, we said earlier, didn't we, that it's not that he's got a small squad; it's just the players that he trusts.
I think
maybe he's got to be big enough and go, look, Vestergaard and Soyuncu, no matter how bad people think they are or how he's not performing on the training ground, then at least they should have too much for the 92nd team in the league.
I think as joint managers for this team, Chris, we should probably say we're putting out a team that should be good enough to win the game.
Yes. I've heard that before somewhere.
Me too. Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. Craig Young. Oops, hang on a second. Let me bring you back in. There, you're still there. Craig, thank you very much. I would be happy with that, and I don't think you can complain too much because we have got that Newcastle and Forest game coming up. But look. This, if we weren't successful, do we want to be in the League Cup and facing Newcastle, or do we want to not be in the cup at all? I know which one I'd sooner be, and it's the former.
Yeah, I want to be in all the competitions. You beat Newcastle, you're into the last 4. It could go any way. So, I think we haven't got. As Leicester fans, you want to get as far as you can in the cups, and you want to just stay in the Premier League. Let's be greedy. Let's have it all. And
to be fair, Newcastle are going to be going for that because if even if it's all they win this season, the fact that they've won a trophy,
exactly.
It means a lot to every club, obviously, but it means a lot to them as well.
That's going to be a massive game. It'll be a full house. It's going to be.
I do believe Sky are actually covering it. Shock horror.
Oh, are they? Well,
yes.
What a surprise.
Yeah, well, last time when we played in the last round, of course, we had to watch Rangers Aberdeen. But there we go. There we go. Craig, thank you very much, young man.
No worries, mate.
And stay on because obviously I have a very, very quick chat with you afterwards. But thank you very much. And next Thursday, I do believe we're going to have Dave, the Nottingham Forest fan, joining us.
Oh, excellent.
Let me just have a look. Where are we? He did reply to me. Oh, he'd have to let me know. So we may or may not have Dave coming on. He looks after his parents, so he can't always, be free and what have you. But anyway, so all the best, mate. And I will see you hopefully with Dave or somebody else next Thursday.
All right, mate. Cheers, Chris.
Right,
thanks for
cheers
everyone. Cheers. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks so much to Craig there. Wow. I know what is going to happen. If he does go for that kind of a team, we're going to get so many brickbats that we can't win. But look, what is, I hear you say, Chris, what's coming up next? Well, let me tell you what is coming up next.
Coming up next on Leicester Till I Die TV.
Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, David's back, stroke Harry, and Brad's back for question time. You put the questions. I start with one question, and then as long as you guys are putting questions in the chat, we won't be looking at other questions. We'll just be looking at yours. So your chance to get any questions or your thoughts over, and we will discuss it. That's tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Thanks to everybody that's been watching, and if you've been listening on the podcast, 46,000 downloads we had last year. It's absolutely unbelievable, Jeff. Unbelievable. So I will see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Good night, and once again, thanks to Craig. Good night.
That's all, folks.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye, and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
Leicester Till I Die TV. They think it's all